Welcome, 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 gorgeous souls, to another juicy, joyful, and joy fueled episode of Live Your Best Laugh. I am super excited to have my guest on today. We have the wonderful Myra Merchant, who is the founder of the Happiness Equation CIC, which is a not-for-profit organization dedicated to building happier, healthier communities through connection, creativity, and preventative well-being. So you can see like why I've got her on, because we are so aligned. And I'm trying to think, Myra, I met you like towards the end of last year and I was like, oh my gosh, connection, connection, connection. So it is so fabulous to have you on here, my lovely. Would you like to just say hello to everyone listening and anything you would love to share about yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, thank you so much for inviting me to have a chat with you, Kat, in a more formal way than what we tend to do, which is
Yeah.
rushing around like headless chickens trying to get this event sorted, right? Um, I think it was amazing. We hit it off pretty much instantaneously when we met at this networking event, and what can I say? The rest is history, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think your work, what you stand for, resonates deeply for me, and where my life and my journey happens to have kind of been the last few years in particular, and the reason behind and the motivation behind kind of everything I have done for the last almost decade now, relating to community, connection, joy, contentment, well-being, health, happiness, the lot really. I mean, it's all very interconnected, isn't it? So as
Yeah.
opposed to being lots of little things, it's all things that are connected and are really important because they bounce off each other so well.
Yeah. Do you know, I love when you were sending some stuff over to me. I love, again, like there's so much resonance in what I think we believe in. So like you say, I think we just like really hit it off. Or we're ex-teachers too, so there's a lot of synergy, isn't there, But
Yeah.
yeah, and I say ex-teachers, but like always teaching, right? I think you don't take the teacher away, do you? But that sentence that you shared, that at the heart of everything Myra does is a simple idea. A rich life is measured not by what we own, but by the quality of our relationships, the depth of our experiences, and the moments that make us feel truly alive. Like it's everything, isn't it? And I think when we talk about things like joy, we can feel like when we're talking about it, like anyone that's talking about it, they've just got it all sorted out, right? They've just got it nailed, and like maybe
Mm.
joy was always easy, and like like it's okay for them, and I think that's really fair to say that people can make that assumption, but in my lived experience, it's like like it couldn't be further from the truth. And I
Mm.
and I feel like there's resonance in what you share as well. So like I'd love to know, like in your joy journey, if you like, because when, like I say, when people are promoting happiness and joy and all the things, there's often a real driver behind it. Have you always found it easy to feel joy, or is it like a different scenario for you?
Yeah, an interesting question, and I'm not sure we'll have enough time to discuss all of it,
Yeah.
but I think just on a really basic level, no. Um, I'm very mindful of what I share because my childhood and upbringing has generally been a very happy one. I'm aware of a lot of the challenges my parents went through as the last generation in this country and the sacrifices they made in order for their children, myself and my three brothers, to really take a step forward and progress. Um, but equally, because of their own, I suppose, challenges and personal limitations, there was also a situation where there was almost boundaries on what was and wasn't okay. And
Mm,
it was their boundaries that were kind of instilled on us, not necessarily to restrict us, more to protect us because they themselves lacked the confidence to go outside of what they thought was their safety net. So I think when it came to aspects of joy, it was not the important thing. On a day to day basis, it was about survival, ticking the boxes, doing things right.
Right.
And therefore, if there was something that was fun, but it was a collective sharing of fun, then great. But if it was that one person was experiencing some sort of joy over another, it was almost like you had to kind of keep it hidden because it felt wrong.
Right.
Um, I think concepts around joy also for me involved just taking time out for yourself and getting to know yourself. And I think my mum is a workaholic. I tell you what, I admire her. If you think I'm crazy and chaotic with how much I do, the way she grafted is something I don't think I would ever be able to replicate. And I love every moment of everything she's done. But equally, the idea of stopping and slowing down and being one with yourself was just not the norm. And so
Yeah.
it's something I really had to learn a lot later in life because I recognized that the nature of just being on the go constantly really affected me and my health in a very detrimental way some years ago. And we all know that certain life experiences cause us to stop and force us to really reflect if it's not something we do naturally. So, no, it was not the easiest thing growing up at all. It was not the norm, shall we say, growing up. And I think it's
Yeah.
something I value quite heavily now in my life. It's a very core value for me. And each day I am very self-aware of the presence of joy in my life and the blessings I currently have and the gratitude I have for everything I'm able to do. I mean, I think it's been very clear the last few years in particular, and in particular working towards setting up this new organization that we're currently working on, is that without purpose, I feel slightly lost.
Yeah.
Working under someone else's direction, as much as I love lots of people, doesn't necessarily suit the nature of who I am. But being the captain of my own ship is clearly where I am able to affect both my life and my skills, but also affect the lives of many others. And hence the nature of this project being an absolutely crucial part of the next decade of my life. How do
Yeah.
I ensure I leave the world a little bit happier and therefore a little bit healthier? Um, and whilst there is a bit of an indirect kind of plan to alleviate the pressure on our NHS, on our healthcare systems as a country, fundamentally on a day-to-day basis, we don't need to think about it in that way. We need to think about what is it that I'm feeling now and in the present, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, an interesting journey, so to speak.
Yeah, and you know, like that whole thing of purpose, you know, doing something that actually feels like it
Mm,
has worth and meaning. And really it's all about creating legacy, isn't it? When we think about purpose, it's that thing where when we get towards the end of our days and we're looking back that we felt that there was something that had deeper meaning and I just think purpose can be many different things. It can be something like quite quiet and understated but have deep purpose, or it can be like quite a big vast thing and he have deep purpose, you know. So I think because I think people often kind of think that purpose has to be like
mm,
like wild and you know, and a big statement. And I think this is where we can get confused about joy as well. Like it has to be all singing, all dancing. And I just think actually the biggest gift we can give ourselves is that we do the things that we want to do that feel aligned with us and not in a kind of a should state, you know, my joy needs to be noisy and, you know, like and look really good to others. And my purpose has to have a certain level of success and, you know, to have that meaning. So yeah, you know, I love it when we're curious about purpose
mm,
and we ask ourselves, you know, that I guess the deeper questions about, you know, like why we're here. And I guess from this is where like Dose Fest, your
mm,
beautiful creation has come from, you know, because that is all about like it's a massive ripple effect, Dose Fest,
mm.
essentially, isn't it?
I mean, I hope so. I There's a quote I often often come back to, which is something I think Mother Teresa said some years ago, in that I can't affect everything, but what I can do is cast a stone and create the ripples that
Yeah.
affect so many, right, across the waters. And that's it. In no means is Dose Fest just mine. Whilst I've had a vision and I know what I'm looking to achieve and what the goal and the vision is, fundamentally, there's no way you can do that alone.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, probably veered off slightly there. But it is about a combination of things. And I think legacy is an interesting one as well as purpose. I think you're absolutely right. Purpose doesn't have to be massive. Purpose for me on a day-to-day basis is what's today about? What's the next hour about? Why am I doing what I'm doing? And if I'm not content with the reason, the justification to myself about what I'm doing today, then I shouldn't be doing it necessarily. And I think that's really important. Yeah, they're the core duties to get the laundry done, etc. But what I mean is in terms of how much do I value who I am, how
Yeah.
have I worked really hard to develop an element of self-love and self-recognition, self-acceptance, and how do I stay true to myself moving forwards and make sure that that's what I'm kind of um, living to
Yeah.
live my best life, right? But I think the other thing we spoke about not that long ago actually was this idea that I have worked incredibly hard to get to a place where I feel that level of peace and contentment and joy. Um,
Yeah.
and therefore, I feel this need and urge to spread it more and more. And, through my other projects and the coffee shop and the community hub, everything is about something very simple, that everyone that visits one of my safe spaces leaves happier than when they arrived. That's it. That's all my
Yeah.
staff have to make sure they do. That's all I have to make sure that everyone that comes through our doors, it's like an extension of my home, and that they leave a little bit happier than when they arrive for whatever reason, for whatever
Yeah.
small reason. And that is always on my radar. So Dose Fest as an event is also a tool for bringing communities together. My strength has been developing that trust at a grassroots level, creating a connection between people that may not necessarily have connected previously. I think most of my life has been about building bridges. I'm not someone that tends to be confrontational if there's a difference of opinions. I've sat in a very interesting little space of my own in terms of the way I identify, for example, and what that means and the knock-on effects in terms of the communities that I felt I was a part of and how I've had to create new communities and new kind of chosen family members, shall we say, around me, right, to create a sense of
Mm.
safety. But that's not an easy thing. But yeah, the event is an extension of what we're trying to do, both in a locality that is safe and we know at the moment, but also hopefully in time take that to other locations across Essex, across the country, if anyone's interested in kind of joining us, right? In
Yeah.
terms of the fact there are lots of fractures in society and communities today. And it's not necessarily because people dislike each other, it's because there's a lack of education and conversation and understanding. And for me, I was the first person to turn around in groups and say, well, we don't do it like that. Brown people do it this way. And my friends would just look at me, my white Caucasian friends, were like, did that just come out of her mouth? Yeah, absolutely. Let's not overcomplicate the way we communicate something really important. There is a difference you're unsure about. Let's talk about it. Because once you feel educated and aware of something, you feel safer. And so the
Yeah.
connection feels more authentic.
Yeah.
And I think from the outset, that's something that's always been really prevalent with me from childhood. And I think it's just continuing on that purpose, I suppose, that value that no, there's a discrepancy here, there's a fracture, people are not getting on, something's going on. Listen to that. The
Yeah.
political landscape at the moment is scary as hell. But let's
Yeah.
listen to what people are saying and how are we going to address that?
Yeah.
So connections, yeah, really important, I think. But yeah,
Yeah.
it is easy to keep joy and still, as you say, hold those kind of pots of alternative feelings at the same time. So no, I'm not constantly happy and joyful. There are definitely other feelings there that, sit alongside in my life.
Yeah, well, like I hosted a session yesterday as part of like a week I'm part of from an event that's coming up. And the se my session title was What's Joy Got to Do with It? Like everything actually. And it was really to give space to talk about joy. But
Mm,
actually in the conversation, there was, I think, 10 of us in the room. In the conversation, I would say a third of the people brought their sorrows, which is so
mm,
perfect because this is the thing we can say to ourselves. Um, like if I talk about this big feeling, then what I'm doing is, I'm bringing this down and I'm not allowing this thing. And I think you shared that about struggle and joy can live together, and I absolutely advocate that too. It's like just because we are feeling like terrible about some awful event going on in our life or the world or whatever, doesn't mean that we can't feel the joy. We can, these two can live together, but what we don't want to do is
mm,
push that down, the big heavy feelings, and try and be in this feeling because that's just not real. Um, or like just let that be over consuming and say to ourselves, we can't have this then.
mm,
It's finding that balance, which what I think is really important is when we have spaces where we can have all these different experiences like at Dice Fairs, like in what we choose to do on our everyday, we get to come to a space of being more self-resourced, which
mm,
essentially is how we cultivate that change, isn't it?
mm,
So that we're not looking outside of ourselves all the time, and so that we can, like you say, be in the moment and like feel that sense of purpose or joy or realness, and then also like another day be full of sadness, and that's okay. But because we've got these ways of self-resourcing, we can allow it all. Otherwise, what happens is we're living a pretty, I feel, disconnected from ourselves life, and whilst we need connection with others, I think the biggest thing we need is that connection back to self.
mm.
Yeah,
Definitely. Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's definitely the last year or so for me been quite an interesting, slightly complex sort of scenario in terms of understanding a particular form of grief that I've been experiencing
right.
and the fact that I've chosen to give it space
Yeah,
because it needs it. It's
yeah,
not been debilitating. I continue to function, and I'm very thankful that that is the case. I have my strategies, and this again is what the DOSE acronym is all about, the four happy hormones. And hopefully, on the day, and I go back to it again, we're looking to inspire and educate and entertain people so they take away tools and an understanding of what other things they could do to make themselves happier each day, for example. But apart from being resourceful, there is this grief that I continue to sit with that is incredibly challenging for me. And I
mm,
think partly because as an autistic ADHD person, justice is something that I hold very dearly.
mm,
And if there is something that I cannot contextualize or understand fully, that's probably my mathematical and educational brain a little bit as well, an academic side, but it's hard. And I
mm,
think we are so desperate as a society to let go, move on, give up, put things on the other person, the other situation, that we've become really dismissive as humans. And I think that's so incredibly unhealthy.
yeah,
I think the amount I've learned about myself and concepts that perhaps I was ignorant to growing up, and I'll talk about it in context of relationships and having had an arranged marriage, and then going into the dating scene myself some years later, and really recognizing how those connections became mirrors for me to really understand who on earth I actually was. Because
Mm.
until that point, almost in my 40s, I I didn't actually know who I was. I was simply existing and doing what the expectations were. Now, I'm not complaining. Like I said, I'm blessed with two beautiful boys. I'm blessed with the life I have. Um, and some of that nurturing, I think, overall has been really healthy, right? From a parental perspective. But in those mirroring moments, it's been very clear that there are certain things that I've never been exposed to. And it's almost like being 16 again and learning what this is all about.
Yeah.
But I think the last year in particular has hit me harder than anything else because I have been my best self, my most secure self, and yet the knock on effects of circumstances or an understanding, let's say, around attachment types and an additional layer of growth that has been needed for my own personal benefit, not for anyone else. That challenge has been quite hard for me, like
Yeah.
sincerely really difficult for me. Now, not to say I haven't overcome the vast majority of it, but there's still that little bit of grief that sits here.
Yeah.
Um, and it's not the grief of having lost a human from this earth. It's the grief of losing a selection of very important people in my life for reasons that I feel are wrong. It's as
Right.
simple as that. And
Yeah.
I understand and respect people's thoughts, opinions on matters. But those fractures have been incredibly damaging for me
Yeah.
personally. And I've had to really work hard to rebuild beyond them, you know?
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, anyway, that grief exists. And if anything, I think that grief also shapes what I do. So I use it as kind of motivation or a catalyst for I don't need to have control over it, but I've used it to really kind of explore and educate myself a bit better, to learn from it, to reflect really heavily and deeply on it, but also to get on with a life that is, in general, the majority of the time, really good. And I
Yeah.
am, able to do things that make a difference. And I do enjoy work. Like I
Yeah.
love to work. So people might be like, what are you doing? No, I'm working. What on the weekend? Yeah, no, I really enjoy working. I like sitting there and getting things done. And it is what it is. Not all of it. Like, don't get me wrong, I can't stand admin and accounting, despite being a
Yeah.
mathematician. But generally speaking, I enjoy it. I enjoy that bit of work leads to this. I can see the real impact of getting this done, that bit done, reaching out to this person and
Yeah.
creating that rippling effect constantly. All right,
Yeah.
because ripples otherwise slow down. So someone's got to keep prompting, dropping a little
Yeah.
in to get those ripples moving
Keep
consistently,
tapping the water. Yeah.
right? And that's what I do. I keep
Yeah.
doing that.
I think it's thank you for sharing, firstly, around the grief you've experienced. And I'm sure there'll be people listening that will absolutely resonate. And that will be their lived experience too. And I think it's that we can tell ourselves it has to be this thing or this thing, but actually both things can be true. So like you
Mm,
say, you've been allowing, which is so important. It's so important, isn't it? Otherwise you're not giving any validation and value to that thing, and so it can be true over here, and like you say, and you can be loving your work over here, and that's okay. And I think this is where maybe we've been told in society, like you've got to be one thing or the other, and there isn't really like a way that both can be in the same existence. And it's like actually no, and I agree with you. I've lived in an experience,
mm,
where grief has been here and actually joy. And fun and excitement has been over here, and you can tell yourself that's not allowed, so you should really celebrate yourself for the fact that you've allowed that, because I think we can step away from it, right? So I think yeah, that's like super, super valid. And it leads me to think that, you know, when we're navigating stuff like this, because when I think of myself, the things that help me are my tools, my practices, the things that I can bring into my day to like shift when things need a little bit of shifting,
Mm.
like lighten the load. So I'd love to know, like, what are your kind of joy givers, like what your like your little pockets of joy that like always just give like a big Myra hug, like that kind of playfulness that yeah, what's your go-tos?
I mean, hugs. I'm a hugger. I think people have gotten
Oh,
to know that. If I know you, then I'll be like, hello, and I'll give you a hug, even if we've only met once before, right?
yeah,
In other cases, if I'm in a really funny, dysregulated mood, I'll be like, please, no one touch me right now. I've just
yeah.
got to keep my distance from people. So the challenges of neurodivergence, right? Um, my joy givers are pretty simple. It's just taking moments to pause, getting out fresh air, green space, my garden, going for a walk, something as simple as that makes a difference. Good quality coffees, a must.
At the cheerful chai.
Well, at the Cheerful Chai coffee shop, or even just come round to mine, and I promise
Yeah,
to make you a really good one. I'm getting better at it. I used to be shocking, but it's a strange one because the coffee shop is where I now make proper coffees. And at home, it's like,
yeah.
I don't even have those tools at home. How do I make one at home that's going to be half decent? But I've been practicing, so that's good. I think for me, really, it's disconnecting from whatever might be going on. So music, getting some music on that is going to change my energy levels slightly. I think that's a really quick, easy, immediate kind of fix for me. Pausing and putting myself through the challenge of that's what's in the fridge, let's take it out. What am I going to make with this today? I love cooking. um but often for me it's been about taking moments to disconnect completely almost from my existence. um and that's a little bit of a difficult one, but I will share it. Some years ago, when I went through a very, very, very big glitch and I changed the entire course and direction of my life, what was really prevalent was my desperate need to simply disappear at that point.
Mm,
What that meant and what that looked like is something that I won't necessarily share here now. But following a little bit of time to heal, to really recognize, to understand, to get some support, something I've built into my life, because occasionally I can still have those feelings come up, is that every couple of months I disappear for a weekend. And that is the only way that I can disconnect from myself and my life to an extent.
mm,
So, for example, I'm off to Wales this weekend, right? And the chances are I will take my laptop because I've got an event weeks away, but walking by the sea, walking in nature, physically disappearing from where I currently am. Not that I have any issues with my life where it is, but those things are what then allow me to really recharge my battery and again recognize my day-to-day blessings before I come back into the life that I'm living.
yeah.
Really strange one, I'm sure, but that. And the other thing that's really
Oh
important.
no, I'm going to pause you just a moment. I don't think that's a strange one. I think, like, I listened to you say that and I was like, why don't we all do this? Because like we're so available all the time. We're so available, aren't we? To so many people, like in our personal and our business life, and it's so layered with expectation, isn't it? So, like, I was listening to that, and I was fantasizing and
You could come to
going,
Wales.
and I guess, and then I was thinking, do you know what? Like, and this will sound a bit weird, but like the festivals give me that, although there's
Mm,
loads of people
yes.
there, but often people can't get hold of me because there's no reception. And actually, it's such a relief and such a joy. But what I loved is that you go and do this. And I was like, okay, so it's festival mentality. I was going, but I need to go and do it on my own because I could feel my body responding to it because like life is very full and very busy. And like you're saying, you love your work and,
Mhm.
you've got a passion project with the Happiness Equation CIC and Dose Fest. And, like, so that's going to drive you, isn't it? And God, don't we need to rest and pause?
Mm,
Don't we need to rest and pause, And I think if people are listening going, oh God, that's really tricky to do, to have a whole weekend, I totally get it because of
yeah.
maybe financial resources or, like family commitments. Like, how about playing with like every, couple of months taking half a day
Mm,
and, and even if it's too hard to leave your phone like behind, like do not disturb it or do you know what I mean? There's ways, there's hacks round us being kind of out. And I think we're just so often that little rectangular thing is with
mm,
us. And when it's with us with the best will in the world, and great practices, it's so easy to just do that,
mm,
isn't
mm.
it? And then you've done that, and then particularly, and I'm sure you resonate having a business. I go in and I do something for my business, and then I'm
Oh,
doing four other
mm,
things for my
yeah.
business because I'll just do. And sometimes I go in to do this one thing for my business, something else pops up from the business and I deal with that first because it's gone in my face and then I forget about the thing that I went in to do about my business. So it's like if like I think we're all quite kind of held by our phones. So I think finding ways like a weekend, a half day, a full day, like just where we get to be ourselves, in our own time is I think it's
Yeah.
really necessary. So it's made me think it's dating yourself. That's what it's kind of made
Yeah,
me think. Do you know what I mean?
yeah, definitely. And whether it's yourself or with your family unit, I think
Yeah.
the key thing for me, and I totally understand financial stuff as well, but the key thing for me is if there's two things, but in this particular case, if we as humans, whether individuals, couples, families, with a friend, just go somewhere different, we're forced to disconnect from, oh, I'll get that job done, I'll get
Yeah.
this job done, I'll go do actually all of those things will get done. The laundry will get done. But what I need right now is to separate myself from the things that are going to cause me most distractions. If I'm going to drive down to the coast, my phone can stay in my car for a
Mm,
few hours while I take that walk. If that's all you can manage, just until you get into the
mm,
habit of being able to let go a little bit more. And I think that's really important. Physically being in a different place is really important, even just for a half a day or a day, like you say, right? The
yeah.
other thing I think is really important is the more we become authentic as individuals, but also the more we become self-aware and grow as individuals, right? Because for me, growth is a non-negotiable. Why? Because it serves me to be the best version of me. And the better I am for myself, the happier I am. And I think in that process, what we can sometimes forget is how joyful our day-to-day existence is. And the because our measures change in life, the measure of what joy was 10 years ago is different to the measure of what joy is now. And that will change again in a few years' time, right?
Mm,
And I think that concept of measure for me is something that I have there in the background in different elements of my life. When I am measuring the success of a connection, what am I measuring it against? And what is another person's measure of what good looks like compared to what mine is, or vice versa? And how is it that you align that that's okay, or you at least recognize the difference in measures on anything?
mm,
Um, which again, I think is from a connection for me and human beings. That is the most important part of my life. And it's also one of the most challenging parts of my life because of my quirks. And I love my quirks, but I recognize the effect they can sometimes have on different types of connections and I don't blame others, family, friends, people I work with. it is their own individual challenge as to whether they are able to access me in the way I communicate and vice versa, right? Because we've all got our own stuff going on.
Yeah.
But that's it, measures change. And sometimes what feels like joy now might not feel like joy in a few years' time. And so, pause, what do I need to do differently right now? Or what's going on? Have I lost a bit of balance? I think I try to live my personal life a lot more like my business life now because I found that I'm more successful in a professional context and have been because there's been some sort of I've created a form of self accountability where I'll check in on myself every couple of months or every quarter, almost like a business review. Where am I at?
Right.
What's going on? How do I feel? What happened? Like, what do
Yeah.
I need to change moving forwards? I think it's like a personal health check almost, isn't it? Like a
I
personal health
love that. It's
evaluation.
like yeah, like an audit, isn't it?
Makes sense to me in my
Yeah.
weird mathematical brain, right? But
Brilliant though, isn't it? Well, I think often we're just not asking ourselves how we are and what we need. Like I often say to clients when they're in that massive like swarm of overwhelm, I'm like, just take a pause and ask yourself, what do I need right now? But I think so often we are just like working through the to-do lists and like chugging on, chugging on, chugging on. So I think, yeah, a self-audit, like it's so
Mhm.
interesting, isn't it? Things that you might naturally do for a business
Yeah,
to make
exactly.
it thrive and feel good and
Mhm.
successful. God, we should absolutely humanize that, shouldn't we?
I
You
think
know?
so. I think so. I
Yeah.
think going into any future, I think to myself, if and where and when actually no, forget that. I think it's really important to audit our connections as well. I
Yeah.
think actually it's
I
a really
think this is a
healthy way to
great
kind
thing
of
to bring
just
to the state.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I've never really understood my needs and boundaries as an individual. No, let me rephrase that. I know my needs and boundaries to an extent because I do what I need to, right? And I have ways in which I regulate, ways in which I disappear to go exploring, give my brain some different type of stimulation. I love exploring new places and really immersing myself in cultures, right? Um, but equally, because I know that those are my needs and how to manage them, I'm not necessarily as good at, let's say, articulating my needs to others or my boundaries. But it's something I've become incredibly strong on this last year or so. And I think the new business venture in particular has also supported my ability to do that. Because in managing a group of people, in a very different way to having a small business of my own where kind of I'm in charge, I don't really need to respond to anyone, I don't need to keep anyone updated. It's a very different model. And then when you work with a model where you've got multiple people you're working with and you really appreciate them, you've got to work slightly differently.
Yeah.
Um, and so I think that's also forced me in my personal life to be like, oh, actually, that's really important to communicate on a personal level with people as well.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, as weird as
Yeah.
that might sound, it works for me. So I'm going to continue until it doesn't work and I've got to change it.
I love it. And I was just thinking, I know. So for Dose Fest, which is happening 18th of July in Essex, Chelmsford, specifically Broomfield, isn't it? Yes?
It is,
That
yes.
right, Broomfield. So 18th of July, all about our happy hormones, dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphins. I'm going to be co-hosting the main stage with the lovely Samantha Stone, but you're going to be coming up to do part of a panel talk, aren't you? And I was just thinking, bring that personal audit piece in because I think, but I think,
Okay.
honestly, I think it's something that people would really love to hear about, and it's a great takeaway, isn't it, for people, particularly if people say business owners and they're in that plan and review cycle, which you do. Like what a great thing to like to add in to do it personally. So I think, that's a brilliant thing to, yeah, to bring to the stage for people to like experience and kind of get curious about. Um, we're going to have to wrap up in a moment, my lovely.
Yes.
Our talk has been delicious, but
Thank
we will share in a a little bit more about Dose Fest. But I would love to just share a little laughter breath with you, if that's okay.
you. Let's do it.
Um, I love to do this because it just reminds us that we have a tool within that can
Mhm.
always help us. We have many, 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 many tools. Laughter is a really beautiful one, which we learn from like tiny. And so it's, yeah, just great to experience it and feel it, and laugh for no reason, right? And it not
Yeah.
be conditional. So what we're going to do, I'll guide us through. We're going to take a breath in. And then when we breathe out, we're just going to exhale with deep, hearty laughter. Yeah, sounds
Okay,
good.
cool. Let's do it.
So let's take a breath in and then exhaling with laughter.
Oh, damn. Oh, you crack me up, Kat. Oh, dear.
See, I will just keep
Oh,
going and I have to remind myself
please
to pause.
do. Go for it.
But, like how do you feel just from a laughter breath, Myra? Like if you could
Yeah,
pluck a
I mean,
breath.
amazing, right? It's
Yeah.
it's it's we have so many inbuilt inhibitions because of what society thinks is okay and not.
Yeah.
So I love your laughter, bro. I love laughter sessions. I really do. It's just so random. Um,
Oh,
for me
yeah.
personally, because it's just out of context, so there's nothing to laugh at. But
Yeah.
actually there is. So I
Yeah.
love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
thank you so much. Thank you.
Oh, so welcome,
I
my
appreciate
lovely. And
it.
I'll be bringing some laughter to Dose First. Yeah, Myra, honestly, I think you're an absolute legend, and I'm just going to big you up a minute because you deserve it. Because Dose First is this beautiful creation of Myra's, created by her CIC, the happiness equation. And you know what? As someone who is cheerleading and championing Myra, as there are a team of wellness warriors and then a team of other people. She's bloody brilliant, you know, she's doing incredible stuff because it's all fueled with love. You know, you can feel the love, the energy, the heart, the soul in it. And I really do believe that this is just the beginning because Dose Fest is, you know, it's like putting kind of like the imprint on the map, if you like. It's one piece of the jigsaw, and then I
Mhm.
feel like all these other pieces are going to come. But you were working tirelessly to birth it, and I just want to acknowledge and celebrate you for that because I really feel it's going to make a massive difference to communities. So if you are like in Essex, and you can easily get to Essex, you know, Suffolk is super near,
Mhm.
London, Kent, you know, there's lots of places that are super near. You've got friends that live in Essex, come and visit them, you know, like get your tickets on for the 18th of July because there's some incredible people bringing stuff. And honestly, Myra has put and is continuing to put a ton of beautiful energy into this. And I always believe if the energy that's being put into it all comes from the heart space, then amazing stuff will happen. So I had to big you up, Myra, because I know you're not going to big yourself up. But yes, before we wrap up, obviously I'll share all your links and whatever, but anything you would like to add on about that, please do. But yeah, over to you now, my lovely.
Yeah, no, thank you so much, Kat. Honestly, it's been an absolute pleasure just having a conversation with you. It's actually been an opportunity before my day of back-to-back meetings starts to just pause again and reflect, right, together. And deep conversation means so much. Um, I am a heart-centered human. If my heart says do it, I will do it. Whatever happens thereafter, we'll deal with. Dose Fest is going to be awesome and it is incredible value for money compared to so many other festivals that are going on. And the reason for that is we want to make sure it's as accessible as possible. You get a lot for your money. So please do book tickets. A lot of effort has gone into creating a wonderful event. We've got back-to-back performances all day from 10 till 7 p.m. alone, let alone the four different zones, the men's hub, the quiet zone for our neurodivergent people, all the breakout zones and workshops you get an opportunity to get involved in pretty much for free. I mean, who doesn't want to learn how to do a bit of Bollywood dancing, for example? Who doesn't want to practice some genuine breathwork kind of skills that they can take away and just use without
Yeah.
necessarily signing up for a class? But come along, enjoy the day, come and say hello to me. And Kat and the team. And I'm sure just hanging out with us for 5 or 10 minutes will definitely mean you will be leaving happier than when you arrived. And
Yeah.
yes, you're absolutely right. Dosefest is part of a ecosystem I'm currently working on quite heavily in the background. Um, and there are a lot of key directors and groups and partnerships forming to ensure that the way in which we look at how public health services are currently working are humanized, let's say, and working far better for the sake of the people that our healthcare system is due to support. I think it's become overcomplicated and fractured and messy, and I think there's loads of wonderful work going on there. But it's got to be refined and streamlined in certain ways. But yeah, not too much on that for now. Happy to discuss more, and yeah, I'll keep that in mind for the panel interview as well. Remind
Yeah.
me to say the audit.
I I would definitely remind you, Myra. I just think you're a powerhouse because I have been witnessing how much you have been doing to get all of this up and running. So yeah, honestly, if you gift yourself something to do over the summer, gift yourself Dose Fest. It is like so fairly priced. You're getting a lot for what you're investing in it, and you will. Oh, like it's like a pick and mix, isn't it? Imagine you're like your pick and
Honestly,
mix, like your big bag of, and you can just pick and mix, pick and mix, pick and mix a ton of stuff. And who doesn't love a pick and mix? Like we all get
exactly.
excited about pick and mix, but it's actually a lot cheaper than a pick and mix.
Definitely, exactly per kilogram, right? Absolutely. Don't know how long those sweets last for, but
Oh,
yeah, we'll be
yeah.
there for hours.
Oh,
And we've got a
oh,
children's trail, and I kind of urge business owners and leaders grab a few tickets for your team to say
yes,
thank you. Thank you
yes,
for the hard work they're going through. If you're finishing and you've got families, it is the Saturday as soon as schools break up. So what a great transition into your summer holidays. Um,
absolutely.
but yeah, I'm
Yeah,
looking forward to seeing as many of you there as possible. So
yeah, yeah.
and
It's
you,
so.
I love you to bits. So thank you so much.
Oh, well,
You're a
Myra,
star.
like I
I
say,
admire
you've been
you.
amazing. Check out the show notes. You'll find Dosefest on Insta, and obviously their website is Dosefest, which I will share as well, and the ticket links will all be there. So if you've listened to this and you've come to Dosefest, please come and say hello to both of us because we would absolutely love that. Myra, you've been an absolute legend. Thank you so much, my lovely.
You're very welcome.